like because we're virtual right now, and we don't have this like same interaction that we had with students before, like we've been seeing that like sometimes students, like not always intentionally, right? Sometimes just they just don't know, right? Students, because they're like studying in a second language, like sometimes it's really hard for a student to read something and then like put it in their own words. That's like a whole skill, right? And that is something that I had as a student as well, that I would like read something and then, like I want to write about it because this is like important information. But, like it was like the way it was written was so perfect that as a Dutch, like non-native English, I couldn't find the words to like really paraphrase that. So, like it's really easy just to kind of like, like innocently copy something, right? And sometimes you just ask like your friend because you don't understand and you have to do this. It's like 5 minutes before like the deadline, right? So you ask a friend and you just like, like they send it, and instead of like, like taking the information or having a friend explain it, they just copy it, right? And that's like all part of plagiarism. And plagiarism, as like you get like a plagiarism letter, like it's not going to be good for the profile of the student, especially when they graduate. I know in Mexico and also like in the United States, like part of the Common App is they ask us, right, is there any incidents that like we should know about? And like plagiarism is definitely an incident that we should like communicate if we want to, right? Like I personally don't do it because I do feel that people have like deserve like second chances. But I do think it's really important to focus on that, right? And it's not just like us doing like a prevention campaign about academic honesty. It's like really like we need to show students how to do it, right? Like as teachers, like we have this important task to show students how to like paraphrase and like really like, like make sure that they understand it and they put their knowledge like and apply this knowledge. So that's kind of like Mariana, I think we were talking about it in the advisor meeting because like we were having like a few, and this organization, the National Student Leadership Conference, is like the Ivy League, like summer like programs. They have like different programs that really focus on leadership skills and skills that are very important when students apply to college, right? In the United States, they look at applications holistically. They don't look at just grades, right? They also want to look at like soft factors, which includes like leadership skills and like all these like skills that you really focus on as well, right? And like even when we talk about leadership skills, like like you don't have to be a leader to lead, right? Like in a way, like we all have like some kind of leadership skills. So they offered us a workshop, and we were thinking about the perfect topic. But when this was happening, I said, I think we should do something with academic honesty and really like show students like the importance and also like helping them realize that it's part of the journey, right? Like they're in education, they're at a school, like their parents pay a lot of money for like to be there, and like in the end we want them to really learn something, right? So when they copy, they're not learning anything and they're only fooling themselves, right? They're not like they're focusing on short-term solutions instead of looking at like the long term, right? And parents, I assume, like parents don't want to pay like tuition fees for students to be copying everything, right? Parents want students also to be taking the right decisions, and I feel as a school like we have a huge responsibility of like really facilitating that, right? Making sure that like we're accessible for students and really like helping these students in the journey. So that's kind of like how this came about, because we met. I actually met with Prue, the guy who gave the talk, and he's also very like in education. He's a very inspirational speaker, and I told him about this problem, and I told him like I really want you to focus on like this like satisfaction that you get from really understanding it and like knowing what options are available, right? Instead of just like copy pasting, like really like focusing on the journey and through education, and like like knowing that like teachers are here to help you and support you, and just like knowing that we're accessible even though we're in a pandemic and we're all working virtually. So I feel like also like as a college counselor, like I'm gonna start using like office hours, like like just like putting them in their calendar and like being available. So if they want to join like and talk to me, like I'm gonna be there like maybe every Monday, like so they have like this fixed time with me and they can just come in and ask me questions, like very basic, low key, so they feel more but that's a step, right? For some students that's still like but on the other hand, you have like 9th graders, 8th graders already like messaging me, like having meetings with parents who are like really wondering like how the process works. Like students, like last week I had a student who's a 9th grade and she knows that she wants to go to NYU. right? And that's like, you know, like the fact that she already knew that she wanted to go to NYU and like is already looking at thinking like strategically, like that's what we need, right? Because I have students like applying to NYU. They telling me like in October they're applying to NYU, and I never heard that they were interested in NYU, right? So like, and you know, the expressed interest has to be there. You know, like universities, like when they're looking at all, you know, like NYU, for instance, had over 100,000 early applicants. So that's like a, you know, like a huge number. I think it went up like 55%, right? And that's all because there's no,
Wow.
they're all like test optional. Even though I think NYU has always been test optional, but you know, like people
Mm.
feel like because it's test optional, like they have like increased chances to Ivy League. But that's, you know, like the opposite that's happening because there's so many applying that they're like raising the bars, right? And they're like looking at, you know, like the transcript and like what curriculum did the student do, and you know, like how is this essay, and like where, you know, and then they also look at expressed interest. That's actually like many you know, like admission officers have already confirmed with me that they look at expressed interest, right? So if a student has like shown that they are interested in studying at NYU by attending like webinars and like, you know, like if there's two candidates and like one has a really good profile, right, but has never really shown any interest, and then there's like the other one that has also the similar profile, but like ever since ninth grade she's been attending like webinars, and you know, like she's had like meetings and summer camps and all that stuff, right? Obviously like the choice is going to be easy for them, right? Because they see it as somebody who wants to really be part of that community. And you know, like in the United States, the community feeling is like the most important, right? Because you don't really, you know, like enroll in like a degree. You can just say like, I don't know yet, I'm undecided, but right, they accept you based on your profile, not on like what you want in the future. So I, you know, like that's also like that, it's good for students to be aware of that. And like, you know, like that's why like all these webinars I organize, and that's a lot of work. And you know, like many times like there's only one student there or two students there, and I, you know, and then like afterwards like students tell me that they're interested, and I realize that they would have been a perfect match for that institution, but they didn't attend. And I find it like such a such a loss for them, right? But that's like something that I'm working on, right? Like they need to understand how that works. We're actually organizing on the 23rd of April. Ale and I are organizing an International Career Day again. And it's going to be so much nicer this year because last year we had a really good one as well. But this year we're going to have like teaser classes. So like they're really getting, they're not getting the sales pitch. They're getting like, you know, like professors come in and teach classes. So like it's going to be really cool for them to also see how universities work. So I think that's like also like something I'm really excited about. So that was kind of like what we were going at with the session that we organized with Prue. And he had a, it
Mhm.
was fun. It was like a lot of fun. And I'm waiting for the recording so I can send it to you as well, right? But he was like using an example that where he was studying Latin and he didn't
Mhm.
understand anything, right? And he was like just like talking, and he is like very theatrical, right? And he was like talking about like how you always be cheating, right? But like one day, like the teacher like really like kind of, you know, like resonated, like he resonated with the teacher, and like he started to understand it, and then he got it like grades, but he didn't get like he didn't get an A, he got like a C, right? But like even for him a C was like already progress, right? Because he started understanding that he had a purpose, right? So like his talk really focused on like you already have the answers, like you already have, you know, like you know, like you have principles that you have to like really like follow, right? And you have to really live by those principles. And you know, like those principles are honesty, and like he had even like a picture of these principles, right? And like in the end you're doing it for yourself, right? So like a student who's engaging in like academic dishonesty, like in the end like they're only hurting themselves, right? Because their parents are paying a lot of money, right? Like I mean education is not cheap, right? So their parents are paying a lot of money, and like in the end like what they want is their kids to be educated, right? And not to be cheating tests and like so I feel like that's also like what I want to focus on. And I had a talk with my advisory about this as well, because I, you know, like I find this very important that like students know that as teachers we're there for them, and you know, like we're here to facilitate them, and we're not here to like, you know, we're not their enemies, right? Like we're here, like we're hired basically indirectly, we're hired by their parents to like teach them those skills, right? So like it's such a shame if they would waste that by you know, like looking for like easy solutions instead of like really like learning, because in the end like the easy solutions are like short-term solutions, right? But like long-term, they're not really like good solutions. So that's kind of like what I really wanted.
It's super short term for children, right? I don't think that for students, it's just the immediate gratification of getting a good grade. They don't, how do you get them to, what you're saying, right? How do you get them to understand that this is just hurting them, right? At the end of the day.
Totally.
And so I feel like it's super hard because you say these societal kind of guidelines that we need to follow, and you're like, okay, you need that grade, and that grade determines that you're smart, and that grade determines where you're going to go in the future. And it's just such pressure, I feel, for the kids, especially now that they have everything available and they can cheat, as we say,
Yeah.
so easily.
It's so
It's so
easy.
hard.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
temptation, right? How do you prevent them from falling into temptation, saying I can get such a better grade, right? Yes, I won't understand and won't remember anything tomorrow, but it's so easy. And there it's the dangling fruit, right? You're like, well, I'll take it because I'll get a 10, so, or whatever, 100. But I feel like it's, I don't know, it's so hard. And for you, it must be such an interesting perspective because you're a teacher, but you're also an international counselor. So you can see like the long-term kind of vision of it, right? So you're
Totally.
like,
Yeah.
okay, yes, I'm telling you what this is now, but long-term, how are you going to get in, right? This is what college looks like. I mean, we've all been to college, but still, right? You have that fresh perspective of going in and saying, okay, this is just going to hurt you, right? So that's
Yeah.
super cool. Um,
And like
and what did
even
you think
I
overall?
was not the perfect student either, right? That's also like why I can connect, right? And that's why I also understand. And like I feel like, like when you finally realize the satisfaction of like not cheating, right? And like, like understanding it yourself, like that's just, like that's such a satisfaction that's like like not even MasterCard can pay that, right? It's like priceless.
Hi, was Kevin. Thank you so much. I
No,
know, I
thank
don't know what
you.
time it is over there. 7 hours, 8 hours,
30.
7 hours different.
Yeah.
Super early. Ay, pues
Right.
bueno. Pues thank you
Thank
so
you so
much.
much.
And
I
thank
don't
you
know
for the
what you
amazing
need
work.
anything else. I'm happy to help, right?